All right, so today we're going to do an oven cutout. The installer normally does the oven cutout, but sometimes the dimensions of the cutout for the oven cabinet aren't on the layout. In this case it was, but I think it was just that it was a new installer and he probably didn't know what to do. So here we're already found the community, found the lot, and here's the oven cabinet without the cutout. So to the builder, what he called into the CSA was that the oven cutout is too small. But the fact of the matter is it was just never done. It does come, the oven cabinet does come with these metal floor plates that they would set the oven on, and we're going to install those. It also comes with hardwood that you can build a frame on the inside for the floor and put a piece of panel on that frame if you want to do it that way. Some builders prefer it that way, some don't care one way or the other. Both of these do it the same way. They also, if you notice, the back is still on. Generally we tell the installers to cut that back out because some ovens, they're so tight to fit in here that they're as thick as, as deep as the cabinet. So we tell them to cut that out. And also you can use this back panel if you use the hardwood method. You can use that for the floor. The tools you're going to need a level to mark the cutout. You're going to need a skill saw, cordless because there's no electricity in this house, and a jigsaw to finish the cut. So let's get started. So I called the office. Usually on the service ticket, if you're going to do an oven cutout, the dimensions will be on the service ticket. But in this case, because the builder just called in and said it was too small, the CSA thought, well, they just need to make it a little bit bigger, but that's not the case at all here. So I called the office, I called an OS, and they gave me the dimensions, 28.5 by 41 and 5/8. So 28.5 this way, 41 and 5/8 this way. So you want to maximize, you notice that the oven cabinet comes with 3 drawers. You want to maximize the amount of drawers based on the cutout. So if I remove this drawer, and I start from the bottom, can I get 41 and 5/8? And I can. And that's a good cutout. It's the height of how, if you were using an oven, that's good. If you went down to the bottom, you probably could fit it, which is the next drawer. 41 and 5/8 is right here, so you could do that, but then you lose a drawer. So you want to maximize the amount of drawers. Just think if this was your own home, you wouldn't want your oven lower, and you wouldn't want to lose a drawer. So try to think like a homeowner, which most of us are, and do your cutout. So the next step, after we've determined that we're going to go from here without having to make a cut, is to measure up 41 and 5/8. And do it from the other side. And take your level, put it on both your marks. And draw your pencil line across. Now we need to do the same thing from side to side. Now you wouldn't want to start from one side and put 28.5 and remove all the material on one side. You want to kind of split the difference because you want your oven to sit in here symmetrical or in the center of this. So 28.5, it looks like we're going to cut out about 5/8 of an inch on each side. So we're just going to mark that and mark 5/8 of an inch. And with ovens, there's a shroud around the finished product. So you do need to make sure it's the correct cutout, but it doesn't have to be exactly. Some of these dimensions that they give, there's one that's 51 and 15/16. If you went to 52, you're not gonna ruin the cabinet, is the point. But you do want to make sure that it's, if you're measuring and you're making a cut, you want to make sure it's correct. The other thing is, if the installer does this, they can lay the cabinet down on the ground and make the cuts. It's a lot easier to do it when you're doing an install than it is to do a service. It's a bit of a challenge, but it's all right. I went ahead and drew the lines on the cabinet, the top, the side, and this side with my level and a sharp pencil. The next step is to remove the drawer glides of the drawer that we removed. And that's simple because it's just a couple of screws. That's one glide. That's another glide. Now inside the cabinet, if you're not familiar with our drawer glides, they actually in the back they hang, as you can see, with these plastic clips. You want to make sure you take those plastic clips off when you do an oven cutout because an appliance person might not understand that they just can simply be removed. And if they try to slide the oven in and it's as wide or as thick as what we already have, they're not going to install the oven. So you want to make sure you remove those clips as well. All right, the next step is to simply make the cut. Cordless skill saw is going to do 95% of the cutting. And we're going to finish it off, because the blade is round, you can't go all the way to the corners. We finish off the cuts with a portable jigsaw that is actually can do a straight cut. So to get the cut started, you just do a plunge cut, which is just to plunge the skill saw right on your line. And then you repeat the process, go down to the bottom, and repeat the process and go up to the top on this side. The motor of the saw actually hits this return wall, so I had to do most of the cut in this direction. Move the horizontal. So here you can see 95, if not more, 98% of the cut is done with the skill saw, and it's almost complete. So all we have to do now is with the jigsaw, which is a straight blade, we're going to make these short little shoulder cuts and then come down, because the blade on the skill saw is round, come down to the line, come down to the line, then the process will repeat in these corners as well. You can see how much of more of a challenge it is after the oven cabinet is already installed and it's standing up. If it was laying down, it would be a lot easier to make this cut. Cuts I leave at the top so it's still hanging essentially, and the bottom's been released, but the final cuts to do these last two at the top so that I can hold on to the scrap material and it doesn't fall on me if I'm doing the bottom cuts last. This is scrap material of an oven cutout. All right, the next step after your cutout is done is to put these metal feet in that will hold the oven cabinet. The location of these, about an inch from the edge, is what I've told all, at the time I told all the installers. We met with some builders, and that seems to be a general area where the feet or on the ovens happen to be, and it hits pretty good. Talked with a couple of appliance guys to get that information. So if you do the whole floor, like I showed you with the hardwood, where it would go all the way around, and you'd use the back as a solid floor, you don't have to worry about it because the whole floor is going to be able to support the oven. But if you're using these exclusively these metal tracking feet, then you want to make sure that it's about an inch off the edge, and that's right around where the feet are going to hit. So the next step after that is to simply screw these things in place. Fortunately, they come with a little package of screws, what I use for the front. But the back pieces, I like to use just a cabinet screw. And these are the screws that come with all the cabinets. It's got a nice big fat head washer on it. They're long, they're self-tapping. And all I do is I take a torpedo level and I set it on the floor. I set it an inch away from the edge. I make sure that the foot is level. And once it is, I just simply screw it in. There's holes in the back. Of this metal foot. Go ahead and put, there's 4 holes in the back, and I'll go ahead and put 4 screws in each one. Reason being is I'm not really hitting the stud, so I want to be able to maximize the holding power, and put 4 screws in those holes, and I've made sure it's nice and level. And then once you get the 4 screws in the back of the cabinet and your metal glides are level, you can put the screws in the front of the cabinet. That's just, the holes are already there. And this keeps the plate from sliding around. And that's it. So pretty much done. What do we do with the extra drawer? Well, we've instructed the installers when they do the cutout is to leave the drawer in the garage. The reason being is if something happens to the 2 that are in there and they get damaged, you wouldn't have to order one to replace it. 9 times out of 10 though, that ends up in the trash. But no sense throwing it out at this stage of construction because we might be able to use it later on, doing a touch-up and adjust or whatever. If not, we just throw it out. Alright, the oven cutout scrap can just go in the trash. Unless you're me, you take it home and use it for something else. And of course, the final step for a service tech is to indicate the time in, the time out, if the job's complete, yes or no, it is complete. I also like to indicate, this was my first ticket this morning, so I put a 1. And then I like to put down who gave me the oven cutout dimensions, just in case there's any question as far as whether I did it wrong or it turns out to be wrong, but it's just a good note for the tech. And other than that, that is how a service tech would do an oven cutout. This is what it looks like with the oven already installed. This happens to just be the next house I went to, and it's the same cabinet and same cutout, and that's pretty much the finished thing. Good way to close out the video.